3 months ago, I was standing in my kitchen. It was early in the morning, and I was just watching the golden morning sun come up over the trees. The bright morning light spilled across the countertops in a way that made me feel so happy. I felt a little spark of pride in my chest because I had installed those countertops with my own 2 hands. I remembered how heavy the stone slabs were and how hard I had worked to make sure every edge was perfect. The light hit the white quartz stone in a very special way. It made the surface look like frozen water, clear and sparkling and beautiful. Everything in the house was very, very quiet. That was always the first thing people noticed when they came to visit me. The silence was everywhere, in every room and every corner. But it was not a lonely or empty kind of silence. It was a peaceful one. There was no screaming, no shouting, and no one slamming cabinet doors just to be mean or to get attention. I didn't have to walk on eggshells anymore. I didn't have to worry if today was the day I would get kicked out of the house just for breathing too loud or for making a small mistake. I took a slow, long sip of my coffee. It was black and had no sugar, just the way I liked it. The warmth moved down into my chest and made me feel grounded. It made me feel safe and steady on my feet. My name is Tessa. For the last 3 years, this house has been everything to me. It is a craftsman-style bungalow that I fixed up myself with a lot of love and a lot of hard work. To most people, it is just a building made of wood and brick, but to me, it was a trophy. It was a real, physical sign that I had survived some very hard times. I am 32 years old now. I work as a manager for a shipping company. My job is to make sure things get from one place to another exactly on time. This job fits me perfectly because I love things to be in order. I like knowing that if a box leaves the warehouse at 9:00 in the morning, it will arrive where it is going by 5:00 in the evening. I like rules and I like plans. Sadly, real life is not always that easy to predict, but inside the walls of my home, I finally had control over my own little world. "You are staring at the wall tiles again," a deep, friendly voice said from behind me. I didn't even have to turn around to know who it was. I was already smiling before I even saw him. Grant walked into the kitchen. His hair was still wet from his morning shower, and he smelled like fresh cedar wood and clean soap. He wrapped his arms around my waist and rested his chin on my shoulder. Grant is a lawyer for big companies. He is very steady and very logical. He is the kind of man who actually likes reading long, boring contracts for fun. But he is also very sweet and kind. He even cries during sad dog commercials on television. He was the rock I didn't even know I needed in my life. "I'm not just staring," I said, leaning back against him. "I'm appreciating all my hard work. Grant, do you remember how ugly this kitchen was when I first bought this place?" Grant laughed softly against my shoulder. "I remember it a little bit," he said. "I think I tried to forget about that bright neon green wallpaper. It was so bright it almost hurt my eyes just to look at it." I laughed too. It was a real happy sound that came from deep inside my chest. "It took me 6 whole weekends to scrape that stuff off the walls," I told him. By the end, my fingers were sore and red. I had scratches and my back ached. But it was worth every single second of work. He leaned down and kissed my cheek. "You built a sanctuary, Tess," he said quietly. He was right. I had built a place where I felt safe. But I knew that safe places can be broken easily, especially when you have ghosts from your past waiting at the front gate. Suddenly, my phone buzzed on the counter. It was a loud, mechanical vibrating sound against the hard stone. The noise made me jump. I usually tried to ignore my phone on Saturday mornings because I like to keep my weekends peaceful. But something about the way the phone kept buzzing made it feel like it was very important. I picked it up and saw a notification for a new email. That was very strange. I had blocked my family's phone numbers years ago so they couldn't call or text me. My work emails went to a different account. This was my personal email, the one I used only for paying bills or talking to my closest friends. I looked at the sender's name and felt my stomach drop like it was falling through the floor. The email was from Sylvia M. The subject line said, "Urgent, life or death." The name Sylvia belonged to my mother. I had not seen her face or heard her voice in 5 long years. 5 years ago, I packed 2 bags and ran away in the middle of the night. The subject line was exactly the kind of thing Sylvia would write. For her, everything was always a giant emergency. If she broke a fingernail, it was a tragedy. If she missed her hair appointment, it was a huge crisis. But seeing those words in big, bold letters still made me feel sick. I started to sweat and I couldn't stop my hands from shaking. "Tess," Grant's voice changed. He wasn't joking anymore. He sounded very worried. He saw all the color leave my face. "What's wrong? What happened?" "It's my mother," I whispered. The words felt like dry ash in my mouth. "She sent me an email. She says it is a matter of life or death." Grant's body went stiff. He knew all the stories about my family. He knew why I got scared when people raised their voices or shouted. He knew about the bad dreams I had. Sometimes I would wake up gasping for air because I dreamt I was back in my old house. In those dreams, the lock on my bedroom door was always broken, and I was never safe. Grant looked me in the eye. "You don't have to open that email," he said firmly. "Just delete it. Whatever is happening over there, it is not your problem anymore. They made their choices and you made yours." I wanted to listen to him. I really did. I wanted to hit the delete button and go back to drinking my coffee in the sunshine. But curiosity is like a drop of poison. Once it starts, it spreads everywhere. What if someone really was dying? What if it was my dad, Frank? Or what if it was my sister, Kayla? Even after everything they did to me, I still felt a tiny bit of guilt. It was like a program they had put in my brain since the day I was born. I couldn't help it. I moved my thumb and opened the email. It said, "Tessa, we need to see you right now. This is not a game. It involves the police and some very dangerous people. Please come home just this once. Your dad is not doing well." Dad is not doing well. That was the part that got to me. My family knew exactly which words would hurt me the most. They knew how to make me feel bad even from a distance. "I have to go," I said. My voice was shaking. Grant stepped in front of me to stop me. "No, you don't," he argued. "Tess, think about this. You haven't talked to them in 5 years. Why are they asking for you now? It's probably just another trick." I looked down at the floor. If something really does happen to him and I didn't go help, I don't think I could live with that, I said. "I just need to know the truth. I will go there, find out what the emergency is, and if they are lying, I will leave immediately. I'll only stay for 10 minutes. That's it." Grant looked at me for a long time. He was thinking like a lawyer, trying to see all the possible outcomes. He could see that I was not going to change my mind. Finally, he let out a long sigh. He grabbed his car keys from the hook by the door. "Fine," he said, "but you are not going there alone. I am driving you. I'm going to stay in the car, and I am keeping the engine running so we can leave fast if we need to." As we drove toward the old neighborhood where I grew up, everything started to look different. The houses were closer together. The trees were messy and overgrown. The fences were broken and jagged. I stared out the window, but I wasn't really looking at the stores we passed. I was looking at my memories. To understand why a simple email made me so scared, you have to know what happened the night I left. It was 5 years ago. I was 27 years old. Back then, I lived in a tiny apartment that was the size of a shoebox. I was very poor. I ate canned beans and cheap noodles every single night. I worked 2 jobs. During the day, I was at the shipping company. At night, I did computer work for extra cash. I was always tired and looked like a zombie. But I had a very important goal. I was saving every penny to buy a house. I had managed to save $80,000. Every single dollar came from a meal I didn't eat or a party I didn't go to. I wore my shoes until they literally fell apart just to save money. One Sunday night, I went to my parents' house for dinner. I hated going there, but I felt like I had to. It was a family obligation. My younger sister, Kayla, was there with her new husband, Derek. Kayla was 24 back then, and she was always the golden child. My parents treated her like she was a princess who could do no wrong. She was the opposite of me. She was loud, she always demanded things, and she was very irresponsible. We were eating meatloaf that night. I can still remember the smell of the ketchup and onions. Suddenly, Kayla clapped her hands. Her nails were covered in shiny rhinestones that caught the light. "I have an announcement," she squealed. "I'm going to start my own business, a luxury nail salon with expensive champagne and caviar for the customers." My dad, Frank, smiled at her with so much pride. "That's my girl," he said. "You're going to be a real business owner." My mom, Sylvia, nodded her head fast. "You'll be famous, honey." Then the room went completely quiet. They all turned their heads and looked at me. I felt like the air was being sucked out of the room. My dad wiped his mouth with a napkin and looked me in the eye. "Kayla needs money to start her shop," he said. "The banks won't help her because they don't see her vision." But we are family and family helps each other. You have that money saved up. I tried to stay calm. I'm happy for you, Kayla, I said carefully. Then my dad said, we need $80,000. He didn't ask me, he just told me. My dad said $80,000 would pay for the rent, the chairs, and the ads for the shop. I was so shocked that I dropped my fork. It hit my plate with a loud bang. $80,000 was the exact amount of money I had in my savings account. They knew exactly how much I had because I had told my mom about it a week before. I was proud of my hard work, and I thought she would be happy for me. Dad, I whispered, that is my house money. I have been working and saving for 4 years to buy a home for myself. Kayla rolled her eyes and made a mean face. So just save it again, she snapped. You're smart and you have a good job. I need this money right now. This is my dream, Tessa. Don't be so selfish. I am not being selfish, I yelled back. My voice was getting loud and my heart was racing. I am trying to build a real life for myself. Kayla has never kept a job for more than 3 months in her life. How is she going to run a whole business? That was the worst thing I could have said. My dad slammed his hand down on the table so hard the plates jumped and the water glasses tilted. How dare you say that? He screamed. Your sister has potential. You think you're better than us just because you work in a fancy office. You are part of this family, and in this family, we help each other. Helping is one thing, I said, standing up from the table. But I'm not going to destroy my own life just to give her what she wants. I worked for that money, I am not giving it away. My dad stood up too. He was a very big man. When he got angry, his face would turn a scary shade of purple. He pointed his finger right in my face. If you walk out that door with that money, don't you ever come back, he growled. You have to choose right now. Do you want that money, or do you want your family? I looked at my mom for help, but she wouldn't look at me. She just kept cutting her meatloaf like nothing was happening. I looked at Kayla. She had a tiny, mean smile on her face. She looked like a spoiled child who knew her daddy would give her whatever she wanted. In that moment, I realized the truth. They didn't actually love me. They only loved what I could give them. I wasn't a daughter to them. I was just a pile of money they wanted to spend. Okay, I said very quietly. I choose the money. I turned around and walked out of the house. I didn't even go back for my things. I just got into my old car and drove away. I parked in a giant parking lot and cried for 3 hours. But I kept my money. And eventually, that money bought the house that became my safe place. Now, 5 years later, I was sitting in Grant's nice car. We were heading back into the neighborhood I ran away from. I wondered if I was making a mistake by going back. But deep down, I knew I had done the right thing 5 years ago. My only mistake was thinking I could ever truly get away from these people. We pulled into the driveway. The house looked much smaller and older than I remembered. The paint was falling off the sides in big flakes, and the grass was full of weeds. But parked right in the front were 2 cars that did not fit. There was a brand new white Range Rover and a shiny black BMW. A Range Rover, Grant whispered. He looked at the car. That's a $100,000 car. Why do they need your help if they have a car like that? I felt a headache starting behind my eyes. That must be Kayla's car, I said, and the other one is probably Derek's. I can't believe they have those. Grant started to unbuckle his seatbelt. I'm coming inside with you, he said. I put my hand on his arm to stop him. No, I told him. If my dad sees you, he will try to act tough and start a fight. It will just make things worse. Let me handle them. Keep the car running. If I'm not back in 15 minutes or if I send you a text, then you come in. Grant didn't like the plan, but he nodded his head. He kept his phone in his hand, ready to call for help if things went wrong. I walked up the old sidewalk. The cracks in the cement were full of tall weeds. I took a deep breath to try and stay calm, and then I knocked on the door. It opened almost immediately. It was my mom. She looked much older than before. Her hair was dyed a very bright, fake blonde color. There were deep lines of anger and bitterness around her mouth. But as soon as she saw me, she started crying real tears. Tessa, oh, thank God you're here, she sobbed. She tried to give me a hug, but I stayed very still and stepped back. I didn't want to touch her or be near her. Hello, Mom, I said. My voice was very cold. She looked hurt for a second, but then she changed her face. Come in, she said quickly. Everyone is waiting in the living room. I walked into the house. The first thing I noticed was the smell. It smelled like old cigarettes and cheap vanilla spray. The house was a huge mess. There were piles of magazines and boxes everywhere. It looked like Kayla was trying another get-rich-quick plan. There were dirty dishes on the table. My dad was sitting in his chair. He didn't look sick at all. He just looked very angry. Kayla was on the couch, crying into a bunch of tissues. Her husband, Derek, was patting her on the back, but he didn't look like he knew what to do. "So you finally showed up," my dad grunted. He didn't even stand up to say hello or welcome me. "You said this was life or death," I said. I stayed near the door. I kept my hand on the doorknob just in case I needed to run back to the car. "What is the emergency?" Kayla looked up at me. Her makeup was smeared all over her cheeks. "They are going to kill us, Tessa," she screamed. "Or they're going to put us in jail." "Who is going to do that?" I asked. Derek finally spoke up. He looked very tired and he kept looking around the room like he was scared of something. "The people we owe money to," he said. My mom started shaking her hands. "We owe a lot of money, Tessa, a whole lot." I crossed my arms and looked at them. "Let me guess," I said. "The nail salon didn't work out." Kayla jumped up and shrieked. "It wasn't my fault. The market was bad and people left mean reviews online just to be mean." My dad cut her off. "It doesn't matter whose fault it is," he yelled. "The point is, we have a giant debt. Your mother and I signed for the loans. We used this house to guarantee the money. That means if we don't pay, the bank takes our home." I felt a cold shiver go down my back. They had risked their own home just for Kayla's silly business idea. "How much money do you owe?" I asked. The room went very quiet. Kayla looked down at her feet. My dad cleared his throat and looked uncomfortable. 185,000. He said. I almost laughed out loud. It was so crazy. 185,000? How do you even spend that much money on a nail salon? Kayla whispered. It wasn't just the shop. We had to look rich for our Instagram followers. We needed the nice cars and the designer clothes to make the brand look special. I looked out the window at that expensive Range Rover. "So you spent money you didn't have on fancy cars and clothes, and now you want me to help you?" I asked. My mom walked closer to me. She whispered like she was telling me a secret. "We know you have that new house, Tessa. We did some research. That bungalow you bought is in a very fancy neighborhood. The websites say it is worth more than $400,000 now. You have plenty of money." My blood went cold. They had been spying on me. They were looking at my life, waiting for a chance to take what I had worked for. "So here is the plan," my dad said. He leaned forward in his chair. "You sell your house. You'll get about $200,000 after you pay the bank. You use that money to pay off Kayla's debt. That saves our house and keeps her out of trouble. You'll probably have about $15,000 left over. You can use that to rent a nice apartment somewhere. You're smart, Tessa. You can just save up and buy another house in a few years." I just stared at them. I couldn't believe what I was hearing. They wanted to take my home away to pay for Kayla's irresponsible mistakes. I looked at Kayla. She was 30 years old, but she was acting like a toddler who wanted someone else to fix her mess. I looked at my parents. They were willing to make me homeless just to save her. "You want me to sell my home?" I asked very slowly. "You want me to lose my house to pay for her car and your bad choices?" My dad stood up and shouted, "It's family, Tessa. Family makes sacrifices for each other." I looked him right in the eye. "No," I said. It was just one small word, but it felt like a gunshot in that messy room. My dad's face turned that scary shade of purple again. "What did you say?" he growled. "I said no," I repeated. "I am not selling my house. I am not giving you any money. If you need cash, sell that Range Rover, sell the BMW, sell this house if you have to, but you are not touching mine." I turned around to leave. My dad roared at me as I walked away. "If you walk out that door, you'll be sorry. We aren't going to let you let us drown. You owe us." I slammed the front door shut behind me. I walked down the path with my legs shaking, but I kept my head held high. I got back into Grant's car. "Drive," I told him. "Just get us out of here." As we pulled away, I looked back and saw the curtains move in the window. I knew for sure that this was not over. They were desperate, and when people are desperate, they do dangerous things. The ride back to my house was very quiet. Grant kept his eyes on the road. I looked at my phone. I saw the signal bars move as we got further away from my parents' house. I thought that saying no would be the end of the story. I was wrong. It was only the beginning of a nightmare. By the time we got back to my safe, quiet driveway, my phone started buzzing like crazy. It wasn't just one person calling. It was a flood of messages from everyone. First, it was from my Aunt Linda. I hadn't talked to her in 6 years. Her text said, "I just talked to your mother. She is crying and she is so upset. How can you be so mean, Tessa? Your sister is in big trouble. You have so much and you won't even help her. You should be ashamed of yourself." Then I got a message from my cousin Mark. "I heard you're letting Kayla become homeless. I guess money really changed you. You're a bad person." Then I got a text from a phone number I didn't even know. It just said, "Ungrateful brat." I looked at Grant. "They are sending the whole family after me," I said. My voice sounded hollow and tired. I showed him the phone. "My mom must be calling every single relative we have. She's telling them a fake story about how I'm being a monster." Grant's jaw was tight and angry. "Block them," he said. "Block every single one of them. Do not talk to them." I started blocking the numbers one by one. But then, a new notification popped up. It was from TikTok. I don't use TikTok very often, but I still followed Kayla from a long time ago. She had just posted a new video. I clicked on it and I felt sick to my stomach. There she was, sitting inside her expensive Range Rover. She had used a sad music filter and her eyes were all red. "Hey guys," she whispered to the camera. She wiped away a fake tear. "I don't usually do this, but my heart is broken. My family has turned their backs on me. We are about to lose everything, and someone who could save us just laughed in my face. It's sad how money shows you who people really are. Please pray for me." She didn't use my name, but she didn't have to. Everyone knew who she meant. She was liking every comment that said things like, "Mean sisters are the worst," or "You don't need that kind of negativity in your life." I felt a mix of hot anger and nausea. "She is using the internet to attack me," I said. "She's playing the victim for thousands of strangers while she's sitting in a car that costs more than I make in a whole year." Grant took the phone away from me and put it on the couch. "Stop looking at it," he said. "That video is not real life, Tess. It's a show. In real life, you worked 80 hours a week to buy this house. They spent money they didn't have. Don't let them make you feel crazy." I tried to listen to Grant. I tried to focus on making dinner. I tried to enjoy the smell of the chicken roasting in the oven. But my house felt different that night. The shadows looked longer and scarier. Every time a car drove past my window, I froze in place. I would stop what I was doing and wait for someone to slam a door, but no one came. I realized that safety is just a feeling, and it can be broken in a second. I didn't sleep at all that night. I just lay in bed staring at the ceiling fan and listening to the house creak. I kept hearing my dad's voice in my head. "You owe us." Did I really owe them? Did I owe them for feeding me when I was a kid? Or was that just what parents are supposed to do? I finally fell asleep around 4:00 in the morning. When I woke up, I tried to tell myself that the worst part was over. They had a tantrum, they told the relatives, and they made a video. Surely they would stop now and find someone else to bother. I was being very naive. They were not done with me at all. They were just getting started on a plan to ruin my life. Tuesday was supposed to be a normal work day. I like Tuesdays because I have meetings and a lot of paperwork to do. I love looking at shipping numbers because they make sense. Numbers are clean and honest. They don't lie to you or try to trick you. I was sitting at my desk with my headphones on, working on a big spreadsheet. Suddenly, my desk phone rang. It was Sarah, the lady who works at the front desk downstairs. She sounded very nervous. "Tessa," she whispered. "There is a man down here who wants to see you. He says he is your father." My heart started beating so fast I thought it would break my ribs. I grabbed the phone tight. "Did you tell him I'm here?" I asked. "He already knows," Sarah said. "He said he saw your car in the parking lot. Tessa, he is making a giant scene. He is shouting that there is a family emergency and he has to talk to you right now. The security guards are watching him." I stood up. "I'm coming down," I said. "Do not let him pass the gates." I hung up the phone. My hands were shaking. This office was my safe place. This was where I was Tessa the manager, not Tessa the disappointment. He was breaking my boundaries. I walked to the elevator. Every floor the elevator went down felt like I was going deeper into a nightmare. When the doors opened, I saw him. My dad was wearing a messy flannel shirt and stained jeans. He looked totally out of place in our nice, clean office lobby. He was shouting at David, the security guard I talked to every morning. "I have a right to see my daughter," he screamed. People were staring at him. Important clients in suits were looking at him like he was a crazy person. "Dad." I yelled. My voice was sharp and loud. He spun around. His eyes looked wild and angry. "There you are," he shouted, "hiding in your fancy building while your family is starving and losing everything." I ran over to him and grabbed his arm. I pulled him toward a corner away from the desk. "What are you doing here? You can't be here, Dad. This is my job." My dad laughed, and it was a mean, barking sound. You wouldn't even have this job if we hadn't raised you. You owe all your success to us, and now you're letting your sister drown." I hissed at him. "Lower your voice. You are embarrassing yourself and me." Of course, he didn't stop. He got even louder because he wanted everyone to hear him. "I'm embarrassing myself," he yelled. "My daughter sits on a pile of money while the bank takes her family's home. Is that what you people do here? Teach greed?" He waved his arm around at the whole lobby. "This is what she is, a cold-hearted snake." David, the security guard, stepped in. "Sir, I have to ask you to leave right now. You are causing a disturbance." My dad shoved David's hand away and yelled, "Don't touch me. I'm not going anywhere." That was the end. David signaled his partner and they both grabbed my dad by the arms. "Tessa, tell them to stop. Tessa," my dad screamed as they dragged him toward the door. "You are dead to me, do you hear me? If we lose the house, it is your fault. You are a murderer." I stood there frozen as everyone watched. The door spun him out onto the sidewalk. The lobby went completely silent. Everyone was looking at me, the receptionist, the clients, and my coworkers. I wanted to disappear into the floor. My boss, Mr. Henderson, walked out of his office. He had seen everything. Mr. Henderson was a nice man, but he was very serious about work. "Tessa," he said gently, "please come into my office." I followed him with my head down, feeling so much shame. I sat in the chair across from his desk. I was trying so hard not to cry. "I am so sorry," I said. My voice was choking. "I didn't know he would come here. It will never happen again." Mr. Henderson leaned back. "Tessa, you are a great manager, but we can't have scenes like that in the lobby. We have important clients here. Is this going to keep happening?" "No," I lied. "I will handle it." He told me to take the rest of the day off and go deal with my family. I walked out to my car. My hands were shaking so hard I dropped my keys twice. My dad had followed me to my job. He had humiliated me in front of everyone I work with. His message was clear: if they couldn't be happy, then I wasn't allowed to be happy either. He wanted to ruin my reputation. I drove home using a different way so he couldn't follow me. I kept checking my mirror. Every truck looked like his. Every car looked like Derek's. Paranoia is a very heavy feeling. It makes you tired and scared. When I got home, Grant was already there. I had called him from the car while I was crying. He met me at the door with a hug and a glass of wine. He held me together while I felt like I was falling apart. "We need a restraining order," Grant said. He was pacing back and forth in the living room. "I can write the papers tonight and we can go to the court in the morning to file them." I sat on the sofa and sighed. "A piece of paper won't stop them, Grant. You saw him today. He isn't acting normal. He thinks he's right. A judge telling him to stay away will just make him more angry." "What do we do?" Grant asked. "Do we just wait for them to do something worse?" I whispered. "I don't know." We didn't have to wait very long to find out. Around 11:00 that night, I was turning off the lights downstairs. I looked out the front window through the blinds. A car was parked down the street under a flickering light. It was a black BMW. It was Derek's car. The engine was off, but the parking lights were on. "Grant," I called out quietly. "Look, they are back." Grant came to the window and looked out. "Is that them?" he asked. "That's Derek," I said. "He is watching our house." Just then, my phone buzzed on the table. It was a text from a number I didn't know. It said, "Nice curtains. Did you buy those with the money you stole from your family?" I felt sick to my stomach. They weren't just watching me, they were teasing me. They wanted me to know they were there. They wanted to destroy my peace so I would get tired and just give them the money to make them stop. It was a strategy to get what they wanted. "I'm calling the police," Grant said. He reached for his phone. "And what will you tell them?" I asked. "That my brother-in-law is parked on a public street. That someone sent a text message. The police won't do anything because being a creep is not against the law." Grant slammed his phone down. He knew I was right. My family was staying just inside the rules while they tortured me. We went upstairs to bed, but we couldn't sleep. Every time a car drove past the house, we sat up in bed, waiting. At 3:00 in the morning, a loud crack echoed through the front yard. It was so loud it sounded like a gun. I screamed and dove off the bed. Grant grabbed a baseball bat from the closet and ran to the window. "Stay here," he told me, but I followed him anyway because I was too scared to be alone. We looked out the window. The black BMW was gone, but at the end of my driveway, my beautiful wooden mailbox was in pieces. I had built that mailbox myself. I had sanded the wood and stained it to look perfect. Now it was just splintered trash on the ground. Grant ran outside and I followed him. I was barefoot on the cold ground. My mailbox was broken into tiny pieces. It looked like someone had hit it with a giant hammer. Lying next to the broken wood was a piece of paper with a rock on top. I picked it up. It was a printout of my house's value from a real estate website. It showed the number $420,000. Someone had written "tick-tock" across the paper in big red marker. I stood there in the dark. This was not just a family fight anymore. This was real violence. "They smashed it," I whispered. I started to cry. "They came to my home and they smashed my things. They're coming for me." Grant put his arm around me. "Tessa, we can't stay here tonight. It isn't safe." I felt a sudden surge of anger. "This is my house," I yelled into the dark. "I am not letting them drive me out of my own home." Grant looked at the broken mailbox. "They aren't just trying to drive you out," he said. "They are giving you a warning. Next time, it won't be the mailbox. They will hurt you or the house." Grant was right. I looked down the dark street and felt like my family was watching me from the shadows. I felt like a bird in a cage, and they were the cats circling around me. The next morning, the sun came up, but everything felt different. I sat at the kitchen island and looked out the window at the empty spot where my mailbox used to be. Grant was on the phone with his office. He was staying home to be with me. I looked around my kitchen. I looked at the tiles and the lights and the floor. I loved this house so much. It was part of me. But as I sat there, I realized a scary truth. I didn't feel safe in my own home anymore. The walls didn't feel like they were protecting me. They felt like a target for my family's anger. Every single thing I owned was tied to this house. As long as I lived here, they would never stop. They saw my house as a giant piggy bank they wanted to break open. They would keep coming to my job. They would keep bothering Grant. They would ruin my life until I gave up. And even if I gave them the money, they would just come back in 6 months for more. It would never end. There was only one way to win this fight. I had to take away the target. "Grant," I said. My voice was steady and calm, which surprised me. He hung up the phone and looked at me. "Yeah," I looked him in the eye. "I want to sell the house." Grant blinked. "What, Tessa, you're just upset. Don't make a big choice while you're mad. We can fight them. We can get more cameras and loud alarms." I shook my head. "No, even with cameras, I will never be able to sleep here again. They have ruined it, Grant. They poisoned my home." I took a deep breath. "Most importantly, they want the money from this house. As long as I have it, they think they can win. I need to sell it and disappear. If I don't have the house, they don't have anything to take." Grant sat down next to me. "Okay, if you really want to do this. But selling a house takes a long time. People have to come look at it. If you put a for sale sign in the front yard, your dad will see it. He will know you are getting money, and he will show up to take the check." "We won't sell it the normal way," I said. I was starting to think like a manager again. I was solving the problem. "We sell it to a company that buys houses for cash. They close the deal in just a few days. We don't need a sign in the yard, and we don't need an open house." Grant looked surprised. "You will lose money that way," he said. "Those companies pay less than a real person would. You might lose $40,000. I didn't care about the money. I would rather lose $40,000 to a stranger than give 1 penny to my family. I want to leave fast. I want a cash deal right now." Grant thought for a minute. "I have a client who buys houses for investment," he said. "They pay cash and they don't ask a lot of questions. I could call them right now. We could probably finish the whole deal by Friday." Friday was only 3 days away. "Do it," I said. Grant took my hand. "Are you sure, Tess? This is your dream home. You worked so hard on it." I looked at the kitchen one last time. "It was my dream home," I told him. "Now it's just a building. My new dream is peace. I can't have peace as long as I live here." "Okay," Grant said. He pulled out his phone. "I'm making the call." We called the plan Operation Ghost. We spent the rest of the day working fast. The company sent a man to look at the house in just 2 hours. Because Grant knew the owners, they didn't do a long inspection. They looked at the work I had done and made an offer right then. They offered $390,000. It was $30,000 less than it was worth, but I didn't care. "I accept," I said. I signed the papers on a digital tablet. The deal was set for Thursday, and the money would be in my bank on Friday. As the man left, I felt something strange. It wasn't sadness. It was a feeling of being light, like I could finally breathe. I was finally cutting the rope that tied me to my family. My phone buzzed again. It was a text from my dad. It said, "I'm giving you until Friday. Bring us the money or things are going to get ugly. Don't test me, Tessa." I looked at the phone and smiled a cold smile. "You want Friday, Dad," I whispered. "You can have Friday. But you aren't going to find what you're looking for." I was going to sell the house right out from under them, and they wouldn't know until it was too late. The next 48 hours were a blur of work and packing. When you decide to erase your life from a place, you realize how much stuff you have. We couldn't hire a big, bright moving truck because my family would see it. If Derek drove by and saw a moving truck, he would call my dad immediately. My dad would come down and block the driveway with his truck so I couldn't leave. He would trap me until I gave him a check. I wasn't being crazy. I was just predicting how they would act. So, we hired a special company that moves people in secret. They move people in the middle of the night so no one sees. They arrived at 3:00 in the morning on Wednesday. The whole street was quiet and dark. These movers were amazing. They didn't talk at all and they wore soft shoes so they wouldn't make noise on the driveway. They wrapped all my furniture in dark blankets and put it in a black truck that had no writing on it. I stood in the living room and wrapped my glass vases in bubble wrap. My hands were steady, but my heart was beating fast. Every time a car drove past, I froze and turned off the lights. We were moving like thieves in my own home. "That's the last of the kitchen," Grant whispered to me. He was sweaty from moving boxes. "Are you doing okay?" I whispered back. "I feel like I'm running from the law. I'm running away from my own home because my parents are acting like criminals." Grant grabbed a box and said, "You aren't running away, Tess. You are moving to a better position so you can win. There is a big difference." By 5:00 in the morning, the house was empty. Our footsteps made a hollow sound on the wood floors. The house looked sad and lonely. It was just an empty shell now. We drove to a new place Grant had found for us. It was a high-rise apartment on the other side of the city. It was 45 minutes away. This place had security guards at the door 24 hours a day. You needed a special key card to even use the elevator. The parking was underground and hidden. It was like a fortress. When we walked into the apartment, it smelled like cleaning spray. The furniture was plain and boring. It was a little bit ugly, but it felt like the safest place in the world. I sat down on the couch and sighed. "We did it." "Not yet," Grant said. He was looking at his phone. "The closing meeting is at 10:00 this morning. It's an electronic signature. Once the papers are signed and the deed is recorded, then we are officially done." The next few hours felt like they lasted forever. I walked in circles around the small apartment. I drank 3 cups of coffee. I checked my old phone every few minutes. My mom had called 12 times. My sister Kayla had called 3 times. Then a text came from Derek. "We saw you at the store. You looked tired." My blood froze. I hadn't been to the store. They were lying to try and make me panic. At 10:15, my email made a ping sound. It said, "Transaction complete. Deed recorded. Funds wired." I opened my bank app and refreshed the screen. There it was. $210,000 was in my account. All the value from my house was now cash in my hand. I started to cry. These weren't sad tears or happy tears. It was just the feeling of 5 years of pressure finally leaving my body. I was free. I didn't own the house anymore. If my family showed up there now, they would be bothering a big company, not me. "It's done," I sobbed. "It's gone." Grant hugged me and joked, "Now you are rich and homeless, but you are safe." I knew my family wouldn't just stop. They would go to the house on Friday expecting me to give them money. When they found it empty, they would go crazy. And I wanted to see it happen. I needed to have proof of what they were doing so I could stop them for good. "I have to go back," I said. It was Thursday afternoon and we were eating Thai food on the floor. Grant dropped his fork. "Are you crazy? We just got out of there." "Why would you go back?" "I have to go back one last time," I told him. "The new owners don't move in until Monday. The house is empty, but the electricity and the Wi-Fi are still on. If my dad goes there on Friday and finds me gone, he is going to lose his mind. He might break a window or kick the door. He thinks it's still my house." Grant argued. "That's exactly why you should stay here where it's safe." But I told him, "Grant, if he breaks in, I need proof. If I have video of them breaking in, I can get a real restraining order. I can call the police and end this forever. Without proof, it's just my word against theirs." Grant was a lawyer, so he understood why proof was important. He didn't like the danger, but he liked the strategy. "1 hour," he said. "We go in, we set up, and we leave, and I'm bringing my taser just in case." We drove back to the house at sunset. The street was very quiet. The house looked dark and lonely. It felt like walking into a cemetery. I had bought 3 small, black cameras. We worked very fast. I hid one on top of the kitchen cabinets, pointing at the back door. I hid another one on the curtain rod in the living room, and the third one went in the hallway. I connected the cameras to the Wi-Fi. I checked the video on my new phone, and the picture was crystal clear. It had night vision and could hear sounds, too. What if they cut the power? Grant asked. The cameras have batteries, I said, and I hid the Wi-Fi box in a secret vent in the laundry room. They won't find it easily. I felt like I was setting a trap for a bear, but I was the one being hunted, so I had to protect myself. I wanted the whole world to see how mean and violent they really were. Before we left, I stood in the middle of the empty living room. The floors were bare and the walls were blank. I closed my eyes and whispered, "Thank you, you kept me safe for a long time." I locked the front door and put the key in a special box for the new owners. "Goodbye, house," I said. We got in the car and drove away. As we turned the corner, I saw lights in my mirror. A red truck turned onto my street. "That's my dad's truck," I whispered. "Go, Grant, don't speed, just drive normal." We passed the truck going the other way. It was dark out and I saw two silhouettes inside the truck. I ducked my head so they wouldn't see me. They were checking the house to see if I was home. "They're circling like sharks," Grant muttered. "Let them circle," I said. I held my new phone tight. "Tomorrow is Friday. Tomorrow they are going to try and bite, but they're going to get caught." Friday morning was gray and cloudy. I didn't go to work. I told my boss I had a family emergency. I sat in my new apartment and watched the camera feeds on my phone. The house was empty and quiet. At 9:00 in the morning, the texts started coming in on my old phone. My dad sent, "Today is the day, Tessa. 5:00 p.m. Don't make me come inside." Kayla sent, "Please help us. I'm scared. Mom is crying. Don't be a monster." Derek sent, "We know you're home. We saw your lights last night." They were lying again because there were no lights. "Don't answer them," Grant said. "Stay quiet. Radio silence. Let them think you are ignoring them. It will make them act sloppy." I felt sick to my stomach. Waiting was much worse than the actual fighting. The hours moved slowly. 12:00-2:00-4:00. At 4:30, the sun started to go down. The shadows grew long in the empty house on my screen. My heart was pounding in my throat. "They're going to be there soon," I whispered. Grant asked if I really wanted to watch this. "We can just record it and look later," he said. "I have to see it," I replied. "I need to know exactly what they are willing to do to me." At 5:15, a text came. "We are outside. Come out now with the check." I watched the video feed. I saw a red truck pull up right onto the front lawn. It wasn't in the driveway, it was on the grass. The tires ruined the grass I had worked so hard to grow last spring. "He's driving on the lawn," I said. My voice was shaking with anger. "He doesn't care about my home at all." The truck doors opened. My dad got out first. He looked big and scary. My mom got out next, looking around to see if anyone was watching. Then Derek and Kayla got out. My dad went to the back of the truck. He reached in and pulled out a long metal bar. The street light hit it and I could see it clearly. "Is that?" I started. "It's a crowbar," I said. I felt the blood leave my face. Derek reached into the truck and grabbed something else. "It's a baseball bat." "They brought weapons," Grant said. His voice was low and dangerous. "They didn't come to talk, they came to destroy things." My phone buzzed one last time. "Last chance, Tessa. Open the door or we will open it for you." I didn't answer. On the screen, my dad walked up the front steps. He didn't knock or ring the bell. He jammed the crowbar into the side of the door. "Oh my God," I whispered. "He is breaking in." Grant was already on his phone calling 911. "I need to report a break-in," he told the police. "There are 4 people with weapons. They are forcing entry into the house right now. I am watching it on a camera feed." My dad pushed as hard as he could against the door. I heard the wood snap and splinter through the camera's speaker. With a loud bang, the door flew open. My dad stumbled into the house with the crowbar in his hand. My mom, Derek, and Kayla followed him inside like a pack of hungry wolves. "They're in," I told Grant. "Tell the police they are inside." The trap was set. I watched my father stand in my empty living room. He was panting with anger and looking around. But then I realized something very sad. He wasn't looking for me. He was looking for money. And when he found out the money wasn't there, he was going to tear the house apart. The camera picked up the sound of his heavy boots on the floor. It was a sound I remembered well. It was a heavy, scary sound. "Tessa," my dad roared. His voice was so loud it made a screeching sound on my phone speaker. "Come out here, stop hiding." I watched them walk into the living room. They looked confused. They expected to see my furniture and my rugs and my TV. Instead, they saw nothing but empty rooms and dust. "Where is she?" my mom screamed. "Where's all her stuff? Why is it empty?" Derek swung his bat. "She ran," he said. "She cleared the place out." Kayla started screaming. It was a loud, bratty scream. She left. How could she leave? Where is my money? My dad stood in the middle of the room. He was turning around in a slow circle. His face was full of pure rage. He gripped the crowbar so hard his hands were white. She thinks she can run from me, he growled. She thinks she can just take the money and leave, my mom asked. Frank, what do we do? If she's gone, we can't make her sign the papers. The bank will take our house tonight. My dad pointed the crowbar at the bare walls. She didn't sell this place, he yelled. There's no sign in the yard. She just moved her things to hide from us. She still owns this house. This is our money. I gripped Grant's hand tight. He thinks I still own it, I whispered. He has no idea what I did. Grant looked at the screen. He's about to make a very big mistake, he said. My dad marched into the kitchen. I switched the camera so I could see him. If she wants to play games, we will play games, he shouted at the empty house. If she won't use this house to help us, then she doesn't deserve to have a house at all, my dad yelled. Kayla cried out, Dad, no, we need the house value. But she didn't try to stop him. My dad was beyond listening. It's too late, he screamed. He raised the crowbar over his head. She wants to leave us. Fine, let's see how much this place is worth when I'm done with it. He swung the metal bar with all his strength. The first hit was terrible to watch. My dad smashed the crowbar into my kitchen island. The quartz countertop, the one that looked like frozen water, shattered into pieces. A giant web of cracks spread across the stone. This is for being selfish, he screamed. Crack, he hit it again and broke off a giant piece of the edge. Frank, stop, my mom yelled. But then she got angry too. All the years of jealousy came out. She hated that I was successful while Kayla was a failure. She grabbed a vase I had forgotten and threw it at the wall. It smashed into 1,000 tiny pieces. Ungrateful girl, she shrieked. It was like a sickness. Violence is contagious. Kayla saw her parents breaking things and she joined in too. She grabbed a broom and started smashing the lights in the ceiling. Glass fell on their heads, but Derek did the most damage. He took his baseball bat and started swinging it at the walls. He punched a big hole right through the drywall. Then he did it again. Fix this, Tessa, he laughed like a crazy person. Use your fancy manager's salary to fix this mess. I watched in horror. Tears were running down my face. Even though it wasn't my house anymore, it still hurt to see them destroy the place I had built. They are destroying everything, I sobbed. Look at them, they look like animals. Grant's voice was hard and cold as steel. They are digging their own graves, he said. Every time they swing that bat, it's a felony charge. Every smashed tile is more money they will have to pay back. On the screen, my dad was ripping the cabinet doors off their hinges. Wood was splintering and screws were flying everywhere. You want to cut us off, he panted. We will tear this whole place down to the studs. He was smashing the things he knew I loved the most. He was trying to hurt me by hurting my house. The police are 2 minutes away, Grant said. He was looking at his phone. Just hold on, Tess. I wiped my eyes and looked back at the screen. I'm not looking away, I said. I want to remember exactly who they are. I never want to let them back into my life ever again. Suddenly, blue and red lights started flashing through the front window. On the screen, my dad stopped moving. He had the crowbar raised over his head, ready to smash the sink. Cops, Derek yelled. He dropped his bat. Frank, the police are here. So what? My dad spat. He lowered the crowbar but didn't drop it. This is a family problem. This is my daughter's house. I have a right to be here. He really believed he owned my life just because he was my father. The front door was already broken and the police kicked it wide open. 3 officers ran in with their guns out. Police! Drop the weapons, drop them now. My mom screamed and put her hands up. Kayla hid behind Derek. My dad stayed still for a second, and I was afraid he would fight them. But then he dropped the crowbar. Hands behind your head, get on your knees now, the police yelled. They moved fast. They kicked the bat and the crowbar away. They forced my 60-year-old father down onto the floor right in the middle of all the broken glass. This is a mistake, my dad yelled. I am the father. This is my daughter's house. She owes me money. One of the officers looked at his radio and then looked down at my dad. Sir, you are under arrest for breaking and entering and felony vandalism. Well, Tessa, my mom wailed as the police put handcuffs on her. She will explain everything. This is just a big misunderstanding. The police sergeant looked at his notepad. We have the property records right here, ma'am, he said. We contacted the owner. The owner is not Tessa. My dad looked up and he looked very confused. What? The officer said. This house was sold 3 days ago to a big investment company. You aren't destroying your daughter's house. You are destroying corporate property. And the company is going to prosecute you. All the anger left my dad's face. He turned a sickly gray color. He looked like he was going to be sick right there on the floor. "Sold," he whispered. "She sold it." Kayla started crying. "She tricked us." I watched as the police led my family out of the house in handcuffs. My dad looked small and weak. My mom looked very old. Kayla looked like a sad little girl. As they walked out, my dad looked right at the camera. He didn't know it was there, but it looked like he was looking right at me. His eyes were empty. He finally knew that he had lost everything. I turned off the video feed. The new apartment was very quiet, but it was a good quiet. The storm was finally over. "It's done," Grant said softly. "No," I replied. "Now they have to pay the bill." The legal trouble was huge. Because I had the video, they couldn't lie about what happened. The lawyer had clear video of my father using a crowbar to destroy the kitchen. The damage cost $45,000 to fix. The investment company was very mean. They didn't care about family problems. They wanted their money back. My parents were going to go to jail. To stay out of prison, their lawyer made a deal. They had to pay for all the damage and all the legal fees immediately. The ending was perfect. To pay the $45,000 for destroying my old house, my parents had to sell their own house. The house I grew up in was sold very fast for a low price just so they could get the cash. They took that money and paid the court and the investment company. They lost their home because they tried to take mine. And Kayla, she never got the money she wanted. Since my parents were now poor and homeless, they couldn't help her anymore. The people she owed money to came and took everything. They took the Range Rover and the BMW. Kayla had to file for bankruptcy. Her credit was ruined, and her brand was dead. 3 months later, Derek left her and filed for divorce. He moved back in with his own parents. Now, my parents and Kayla live in a tiny, messy apartment in a bad part of town. I heard they scream at each other every night, blaming each other for their miserable lives. It has been 1 year since that night. I am sitting on the porch of my new home. It is a big farmhouse in the country, surrounded by beautiful trees. It is so peaceful here. The only sound is the wind in the leaves. I rest my hand on my stomach. I am 6 months pregnant with a little girl. We aren't going to name her after anyone in the family. She will have her own name and her own life. She will never feel like she is just an asset to us. She will know only love. Yesterday, I got a letter in the mail. There was no return address, but I knew the handwriting. It was from my mom. I let it sit on the counter for a long time. Eventually, I decided to open it. It was just 1 page. It said, "Tessa, we are living like rats. Your father is sick and Kayla is very sad. We are your family. How can you sleep at night knowing what you did to us? We forgive you. Just call us so we can start over. We need help paying the rent. Love, Mom." We forgive you. That part made me laugh out loud. It was a real free laugh. They forgave me for what? For refusing to let them destroy me, for protecting myself. They hadn't learned anything at all. They were still the same people trying to take what wasn't theirs. I didn't feel mad anymore. I just felt nothing. To me, they were just strangers who happened to share my DNA. I walked over to the fire pit in the backyard where Grant was working. "What's that?" Grant asked. "Just some trash," I said. I threw the letter into the fire. I watched the paper turn black and curl up. The words "we need help" turned into ash and blew away into the dark night sky. "Did I ever tell you that I love this house?" I asked Grant. He smiled and pulled me close. "Yeah, but you can tell me again." "I love this house," I whispered. "But mostly I love the people who live in it. This is my real family now." Sometimes you have to burn a bridge so the enemy can't follow you. And sometimes, standing in the light of that fire, you can finally see the right way to go. Was I wrong for not telling them I sold the house? Or did they ruin their own lives the moment they picked up those crowbars? Thank you for watching my story. If you liked seeing justice happen, please hit the like button and subscribe. Tell me in the comments, would you have warned them or would you have let them walk into the trap? See you in the next video.